Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 303. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 2nd of November in the year of our Lord 2023, and it's Thursday. So on a Thursday we're doing that Thursday Talks where we come and we discuss whatever is inside of the live, whatever is inside of the chat, whatever the viewers have to bring up. You can join in over there on TikTok and we'll discuss that. We're starting talking about unions here over on TikTok, and I see someone was saying here that the unions are weak concerning negotiations and proper representation, and maybe they are, but I say this regularly, and I know that many people may not find it a popular statement. It may not be agreed with by many people, but I think many unions are obsolete. The intention of what many unions were created for in the first place, some of them have kind of gone out of being necessary. Like, to some extent, a WhatsApp group does what many unions could do. The aim is to get a unified voice for the workers, and the workers could talk to each other in a WhatsApp group and get the unified voice that they're looking for. That might be better. You see, the thing with a union is you're trying to get power through unity. A libertarian would hold that view. Yes, I would. You're trying to get power through unity, but the problem with that is you end up at the LCM. Well, more like the LCF, the lowest common factor. You now must trade and negotiate on the behavior of all of your fellow workers as being just like yours. Unions are using too much old methods. Do you think paying union dues should be stopped? Well, no, I don't think paying union dues should be stopped. I mean, if you are part of a union, you should pay the people their dues. What I do believe is that we shouldn't have unions in such a preeminent position where so many people are forced, as it were, to be in unions. I don't think that should be the case. I think that unions should be a free market thing where you can decide to be represented by the union or not. And what you'd recognize is that in many places where unions have left in modern times, some of the workers actually get better treatment. You see, if you are a worker interested in being the most efficient worker, if you are the most efficient worker on your job site, the union does not benefit you. The union harms you if you are the most efficient worker on your job site. And that kind of suggests that unionization to some extent slows down the efficiency of your workers throughout. It makes getting things done a lot more difficult. And because of that, that's why many companies attempt to do things to, get around the unions, work around these unions and what they need. If you look in the United States at some of the older, more powerful unions that have locked their way in, they have tied some of their industries into a nosedive to the bottom. Some of the auto manufacturers cannot catch themselves because they are held down by unionized workers who are getting more than they are giving. And if you look at what unions talk about, the purpose of a union is there to seek the best interest of the workers that pay their dues. The union isn't there to balance efficiency with pay. So if the union becomes more and more powerful, what tends to happen is the benefit becomes skewed more and more to the workers' side, and sometimes that is to the detriment of the company itself. We see that in Trinidad and Tobago with Petrotrin, with Mittal, with many industries that have been choked by the unions and by the unionized workers. Now, there is corruption at the top too, and yes, I know many people would point at the governmental corruption inside of Petrotrin, and that's a factor too, but that's not to negate the reality of the union inside of the mayhem and mess that was that industry also. But paying union dues is unfair to the members because non-members benefit also. But that's the reality of the union. That's the reality of what a union is. Maybe, and maybe a union could decide to do that. Like if I was a worker, I could try to negotiate that I would want to negotiate my own specific unique terms. Now the thing is, the nature of unions and unionized workers, when it comes to something like the public service, a union makes sense because the negotiation is happening with a government, with politicians basically, or the go-betweens with politicians. When it comes to private sector, being without a union, you get to work, you get to negotiate individually with someone who is interested in maximizing their efficiency and profits. So you could get a logical agreement made with them, but governments aren't about maximizing efficiency and profits. So trying to negotiate as a single worker with a government, good luck with that. You could understand why the union comes in very important, especially there. The whole government workers business is this recent negotiation was a pay cut. Well, in reality, yes, that might be true. When you look at it, I spoke about this. When you look at it compared to the comparative rises all around, so you get a 4% increase in pay, while your electricity bill raises 16 to 26%, while food inflation is 9.5%, general inflation is 7 point something percent. Rent prices have doubled in the last decade. Transportation prices in some cases have gone 150% upwards. When you add all those things together and then give people a 4% pay increase to offset all of that, really and truly, you basically give them a pay cut. White Leather says in a company, how large should a union be then? Too small and the leverage shifts to management. Yes, that's the reality. Too small and the leverage shifts to management. That's the problem with a union. But if you are a valuable worker, to me, you should be able to trade on your value, your singular value by itself. The average company could do that. When you're going to a job interview, when you're attempting to be hired, that's basically what you're doing. You're attempting to trade on your individual value. You're going to a company and attempting to get that company to see you as valuable enough to hire you. And can't that be done on an individual basis with negotiations also? The government believe the public servants and not one union could have make any one institution stand against them. And well, that's kind of the reality when the rubber meets the road with the government. Like, yes, the unions get to negotiate, but when it all comes down to it, the government is in charge of a lot of the levers of power here. Basically, when all is said and done, what they say goes in the long run. What's better, practical skills or tertiary level education? It's according to what your tertiary level education is in. There are some avenues of tertiary level education that are extremely invaluable. You can't count the value of it. While the reality of practical skills is that they would also always be valuable. And when you're looking into the future, you could wonder about how many tertiary education level skills would be easily replaced by AI versus the more difficult things of getting practical skills mechanized. That wasn't bullying. They made an offense to stood their ground. Good night, Big Papa. Leroy Butty standing strong though. Well, it would be very interesting to see how long he's going to stand strong for, because his workers are already protesting against him. They're saying, take the so and so thing. Wouldn't it be an indictment against him if he waits till next year and still gets the 4% and misses out on the Christmas back pay? I mean, I could throw a stone outside and probably hit someone with a master's degree. That's the reality. It's a free market. and I don't mind this. I like this. I think nearly everything is supposed to function on that free market basis. If you go to get a bachelor's that 1 billion people have, you need to understand you're going into something with an extremely high supply and the demand doesn't meet it. So the price is going to be dog low. If you do the same with a master's, you would get the same. You need to be able to evaluate these things, and I don't think that's a problem. That's how it should be. Negotiations, what? This current government declared wage freeze to outstanding negotiating unions in 2016. Well, that's kind of part of the negotiations. All of that is part of it. That is all part of it. You go to court to determine if their wage freeze was legal. You attempt to appeal it, see what can happen. Then you go back to the table and bring a reason. That's part of the negotiation. You saw that last South Park movie. I heard about it and saw clips and snippets of it, and I heard that they dealt with some of that university overdose business. But isn't that the reason the industrial court is there? Yes, that is part of the reason to settle some of these negotiations, but the industrial court is an arm of the state at the end of the day. At the end of the day, the industrial court is the judiciary. It's an arm of the judiciary, which is an arm of the state. It's an arm basically of the government that governs the country. So again, when it all comes down to it, so if all the unions came together and go to court, well, here's the thing. That's where union power is. The court was created so that the unions don't exert their real power. The real power of unions isn't going to court. The real power of unions is they could get the workers to shut down the country. That's where the unions get their power. So if they go to court, well, even if I believe the industrial court, I think if I remember the legality on that, the industrial court is a unique court where some of their rulings cannot be appealed. Their rulings are final in some of those cases. And but the industrial court is there, and I remember we went through this a time. Laws aren't real. What is real is enforcement. The industrial court is there to attempt to balance keeping the unions placated while not allowing them to run roughshod over their employers. The idea of the court is to ensure that the unions don't need to do old school union tactics. Now, if indeed the unions are doing their jobs and they determine that this is not worth it, we cannot take that 4%. They could say, forget what the courts say. The courts could rule a 5 billion page ruling, and we will burn it on the highway as we protest. The court and the Constitution could say that pilots cannot engage in industrial action. But if my union determines that we are going to do this, it's ink on paper. The Constitution could determine that police cannot protest. But if the union or the unified police are able to pull off united action enough, they will protest in a full day of policing if they so see fit. That is why the government's move of back pay for Christmas, splitting up the unity of the unions, is such an intelligent on their part, possibly, move. Because now you have unions extremely happy to give their union members some couple thousands for Christmas. And those unions and those union members are not going to try to jeopardize their couple thousands for Christmas. So when the PSA is upset and attempting to get things done outside of the courts to get a power show, because that's what unions do. That's how unions negotiate. We have the number of powers. So we're going to tell you that if you don't give us what we want, we're going to work slower. And we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Now, if the PSC has less workers on their side, they have less solidarity, they have less of that unity, they can call for workers in the protective services to slow down their work. They can't call for workers of the federated unions to slow down their work. They could only call on their public servants. That's what happens when the government splits up that unity. Lord, they work like a taxi for Carnival. Them engines probably tired. I heard something like 5,000 empty seats or somewhere around that during the Carnival season. But then I also heard that the Tobagonian business people were happy. They said there was a 200% or 500% increase in profit or sales or something like that for the Tobago Carnival. Good for them. Would workers feel better to get a higher percentage but be laid off? I wouldn't mind that. Lay off the less efficient workers and give the more efficient workers an increase in pay. I don't mind that. But some organizations cannot protest. Krimak, that's how, what do you mean they cannot protest? Which organization cannot protest? That's what I'm saying. That's what the industrial court and all of that say come in there. They come in there to attempt to try to get the unions to stray away from protesting. But what do you mean they cannot protest? Anyone can protest. It's words and paper telling them that they cannot. Alright? So says the words and paper. But we know we have experienced a day of policing. We know we have experienced in Trinidad and Tobago a day where all the pilots magically got sick. So the idea that they cannot protest is not true. They cannot legally protest, but so what? That's the entire purpose of unions. The government went to court. Yes, they went to court, but the day of protesting already went. It already passed. Listen, and that's the point I'm making. Like some people need to understand this. Like a court, when a court makes a ruling, it's just words in the wind. If they don't get people to follow through and actually do actions, then it's nothing. You could go to court and the judge pounds the gavel and says, you are now hereby sentenced to life imprisonment. And if no one in the courtroom listens to that judge's words as being authoritative, you can laugh and spit at them. It does nothing. It's just words. But that not infringing on a person's rights, to stop them from protesting. Well, maybe it might, but then you could probably sign your rights away. It's a contract you signed when you agreed to do the job. To me, police protest every day. That's why 3 and 4 people getting killed every day. Wow. In our constitution, a person has a right to protest. Well, you have a right to many things, but most of your rights can be taken away through due process. So you have a right to freedom of movement, but if you break the law and you go through the courts, you could have that right removed. So you have a right to protest. But if you sign a contract that says, I am willing to take $9,000 a month to do a job that forbids me from protesting, you signed away that right for the money. To me, to then turn back again and say, although I signed the contract knowing I am getting paid for this, I'm still wanting to do this, that seems kind of wanting it both ways. Nobody forced you into the job. Rights are not absolute. That's rights are not absolute, and you can't sign it away. It's your choice. As a police, as an essential officer, as an essential worker, you signed away your right to protest for that paycheck. You could have chosen to go for another job. But nonetheless, even though legally they are not allowed to protest, you can still protest. And that's how unions get their power. That has always been how unions got their power. Unions have done illegal things since the very formation of unions. Getting arrested has been part of a union strategy since unions have been unionizing. And bear in mind that many unions get their political ideology from communism. So many of them, their ultimate goal to some extent is to trigger the revolution of the proletariat in the first place. They are looking for the workers of the world to unite and displace the bourgeoisie elite class. Anyway, that's the way they envision politics in the first place. So legality is just a formality to some extent there. All's fair in love and union negotiating 101. Accurate, wide letter. Accurate. Very accurate. You could unions to show you some of the history of unions were widely known to be intimately tied with many mafias and mobsters throughout the years. Unions were the front for some mafias throughout the years in different places in the world. That's to tell you the kind of rep that unions came with, speaking about legality and whether it's legal for them to protest. Listen, they will send you a bomb in your meal talking about legal. I'm not saying our unions here in Trinidad will do that. I'm not saying our unions here, but I'm saying that has been some union style around the world. Tell them stop forming financial credit unions. Those places frighten me so much. I have heard, Crimac, I remember I was saying this at the beginning. I have heard that there is low morale in the police service, and the 4% did have a negative effect on that morale. And isn't it possible for low morale to have a negative effect on the crime situation? I heard that there's, I said this before, that there's some bias in the promotion business that has some men feeling very hard done by too. No, that's not true. So if morale does not have a negative effect on crime fighting, if morale doesn't have a negative effect on crime fighting, then why do we pay attention to police morale? Forget about the police and the so and so morale. The morale could go down into the ground if it doesn't have an effect on crime fighting. A higher crime rate is also a symptom of a failing and decreasing economy. I agree. There are many things it's a sign and symptom of. But it's not just like 1 + 1 = 2 in such a straightforward way for everything. It's not necessarily like the higher crime rate is directly influenced by a failing economy. It could be that the failing economy makes it possible to have more vulnerable, desperate police officers, and more vulnerable, desperate police officers make it possible to have a higher crime rate. And that's not an indictment against all police. That's just a reality of the situation. Like if you have 8,000 police officers among the 8,000, let's say three quarters of them are basically honest, but then there's 20% that is dishonest with a push, and a 5% that are really dishonest. Now, if the economy keeps dropping, I think you would be digging into finding out who are the kind of dishonest ones more and more. You know, it's not necessarily the economy dealing with crime. It could be the economy affecting police, which could affect crime also. Steps in the process. Carnegie lethally used the Pinkerton police force against his striking workers' management used by enemies tactics too. Correct. No police will ever use low moral or allow murders and violent crimes. Come on. No, well, here's the thing. It's not about purposefully allowing murders. It's about one patrolling group happen upon a vehicle and stop it, and they call in the tactical guys to give an evaluation of the situation. The tactical guys come in, they search the area, they do it halfway. Instead of giving a complete search, they search halfway to find the missing men who were inside of this vehicle that was stopped. One group stops a vehicle, the men run out into the bushes, they call in the tactical guys to search. The tactical guys come for 5 minutes, leave the vehicle and go. And then later that night you find out that same vehicle was used in a triple murder. Because the guys, they didn't have the moral to, you know, go the extra mile to get things done. If you're thinking about police work, there is some police work that polygraph legislation coming, yes, I saw that. There is some police work where with extra effort they would get more results. Don't you see that being possible? If there's extra effort that gives better results, and low morale causes you to give less effort, wouldn't it then mean that low morale means less effort, which means less efficacy? Like, that's not something strange to note. You're not going to go above and beyond. Police does work hard all the time. 5 years now, leave restricted. You see, this is the problem, Kremak, and this is why we cannot get better police and we can't get good things here in Trinidad and Tobago. Because when people say the obvious, like a low morale in the police service is going to decrease the efficacy of crime fighting, instead of admitting even the obvious, no, police does always work hard. It's impossible for police to ever slip up and cause increased crime. No, it can't be the police, yes. We have gone through these conversations over and over during these lives, where you could see 1 + 1 = 2, but if 2 makes the police service look bad, our police is going to swear on his mother that 2 is impossible. Mike, you're not inputting anything. If all you're going to keep repeating is wrong way of thinking, we could get a robot to do that and mute you and carry you on your way. We are upset, but there's no low morale. Well, here's the thing, Kremak, you are lying to me, because I am quoting from the police social and welfare group. They say that there's lower morale. What's the topic headline? Good night, good night, good night. We're talking, we're talking about quite a few things. We're talking about unions. We were talking about unions, and we're talking about policing also. We're talking about the 4%, whether it had an effect on lowering the police morale. And what I'm saying is, I've heard from people that the police morale has been lowered. The police union has been basically saying this. The 4% did something. It didn't boost the police morale. And I'm saying if there is a lowered morale, that is going to have an effect on crime fighting, obviously. Thin blue line is another Cosa Nostra. Yeah, I agree to some extent. We've discussed that part at length. The batch gang business. I don't agree with that, and I think we lose benefits from that. Thank you, Hex and Pie. It's been a long time since I've seen you here. Even if police have a low morale, it cannot affect our work performance. Like this is life and death. I don't understand why this is so hard to understand. I don't understand why this is so, because police aren't humans, you know. Police aren't humans. Police are magical supernatural beings, where even if they have a low morale, even if they get in a horn home, even if things aren't going ideally as they like it, doesn't affect them. Water and duck back like a dashing leaf. It just rolls off. Finding a way to solve the situation is a better topic. Well, Mike, here's what you could do, Mike. You could go start a live and start that topic, because we discuss a lot of different things here. Like, I mean, I don't know if Kremak doesn't fully understand what I'm saying. I am not saying that low morale means that the police are going to go out there and start killing people, and that when somebody comes to report a crime, the police going to tell them get out of the police station. That's not what I'm talking about. But if your shift is about to end and someone asks you to do something that you know is going to drag out well beyond the end of your shift, and your morale is lower, are you going to do it? Okay, go do a research and see the police turnout percentage. But you know, it's the funny thing with what Kremak is saying there. What Kremak is saying basically is that the government doesn't need to appease any of the. In fact, here's what the government should do according to what Kremak is saying here. If you need to save money as a government, cut the police salary. Because even if their morale drops after their salary is cut, they aren't going to do any less. They're going to work just as well. So, here's what. Best we cut the police salary and they're still going to perform as well. Listen, that is madness. You could try to mama guide people with that, but I don't believe that. If we cut police salary, Trinidad is going to start to implode. Further implode than it already is. You are twisting my words. No, but I am not. You are saying that a low morale could you used the word never, didn't you? Wasn't that the word? Let me scroll up and make sure I have your quote correct. You said even if police have a low morale, it cannot affect our work performance. You said even if police have a low morale, it cannot affect their work performance. So you're basically inviting the government here, when they need, if ever the government needs to save some money, cut back on the police fee. cannot allowed. Well, exactly. When you cut back on the police pay, they would make sure they're not allowed to decrease their work anymore. Bro, we know that's not true. But we know that's not true. We know that. I don't know. I don't know who you're trying to sell that one to. That's not true. It's obvious moral has an effect.
Are you not hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
I'm speaking.
I was just talking over here, Ronnie, but I was hearing you.
Damn! Wow. Anyway, all the lucky Rihanna here. But he was talking about how police would not allow crime to continue and whatever. That's not true. They do. Sometimes you go into the police station. I remember I was in school, like university days, when I heard that was back when Sharon and them was alive. And a man coming to make a report on Sharon. Sharon tell him man he going and kill him. And the police officer...
Good thing these people go on. Yes, you calling name big and bold out here. I living in Central in a girl. Good thing these people go on.
Yeah, I can talk about after. But yeah, the police and them couldn't take the man report. And the man had to dead. The man dead. Nobody didn't even try to help the man. Obviously they couldn't. Because why? How much police officers this be on these people and them payroll? How much of them this just didn't know what happening and they just refused to deal with it because they getting money from it. And plenty of them was saying, well, we're not getting paid enough to do what we're doing. So,
and Ronnie, you know what? So funny about some of it too. Go talk to some police officers in person. If you know, I know a good bit of police. Go talk to some of them. And they will let you know, especially in person where they know you're not recording them and they can't incriminate themselves and you're not going to sell them out to the super. They will let you know how dysfunctional inside of the police service is. And obviously, a state-run institution in Trinidad and Tobago is going to have a lot of dysfunction. And then to come in the public and try and make it seem like, it's a perfect, well-oiled machine that everyone in there does their utmost best. And we would never cut corners and we would never go shorter than we have. And when you talk to an officer in person, they let you know. It's like any other workplace. Like any other workplace where there are lazy people, there are wicked people, there are evil people, there are nice people, there are people who don't care, there are people who are trying their best. The difference here is that people who don't care in the police business may cause a couple deaths.
Yeah, look up by me, right? Up by me is a real peaceful place. Recently, these men decide them pulling out on the street, they're literally on the street. Like 3 men. They just stand up there, they have this cooler, so I assume they trying to imply that they're selling some drinks. And they have music blasting no matter what time of day it pass. When I go into work, when I come in home, they blasting music. The police passing and they refuse to move these men who have no permit to sell. And they basically loitering in the street.
Ronnie,
when you're passing, you cannot pass there without a word being said.
Ron.
This.
Ronnie.
Yeah.
If you see a couple men standing on a corner selling something that seems like it is not making a profit for them, usually that's not the something they're selling.
But you have to tell me that. So why the police and them not pulling aside to talk to these men?
Because it's not water they're selling.
In the heart of Scarborough, have a whole block, and I'm not afraid to sit in the police to come and check me.
Ronnie,
if I have a whole block in Scarborough, they refuse to do anything.
When I went to Tobago, that was this year, earlier this year. Like, I don't know if the previous times I went to Tobago, I never really walk through Scarborough like that, Like, if you're visiting Tobago, generally speaking, it doesn't really have much reason to walk through Scarborough. But for some reason I was working, so you know I had calls. I was walking through, and I am a Trini. I grew up in a couple little hotspot areas. I know what a block looks like. I walk, I bend the corner in Scarborough. I see these men just sit down here. Oh, you want something there, big man? I'm like,
in the heart of Scarborough.
in the heart of Scarborough. When I saw that, I told myself, there's no way this happens without senior police in Tobago allowing it. One. And two, the scary part with that, my memory, I have a pretty good memory. That's how I could do some of what I do. I watched a guy there. And then a couple months later, I saw he was one of the few murders that Tobago has. So, directly, whoever is allowing that block to run in Scarborough may have directly influenced a murder also in Tobago. Someone said the police will only find 30 grams, amendments to the Dangerous Drug Act. And I've thought of that. And that's true. I do think that some blocks, they try to be a little clever. So they're only selling and they would only have the legal amount on them. But I think personally, my opinion is that a block like what was running there in Scarborough, if the police was so interested in mashing that block up, they will find that the block has way more than 30 grams per man there. They often mash those things up. And if you sell it, if they find you selling it, that's illegal. So all they need to do is an officer walks up in plain clothes, asks them, hey, you're selling anything there? They say, yeah, what you want, boy? 50 or 50, exchange hands, jail. Like, these things can happen.
No, but not just that. Yes, you can have 30, but if they find you with drugs and a scale, that is selling. Because nobody will walk around with a scale just so.
But is it illegal?
Scale with you?
Is it illegal?
No, that is not illegal.
The scale may not be illegal. That's entrapment.
Who the hell cares about what?
And police legally allowed to entrap people?
What about sting operations? What about, like, I'm confused. So what you're saying is that you can't do anything. The police service is useless then, is what we're saying.
You see, like Crimac, these things make me ask questions. Because I know for a fact that in certain areas, not to implicate anyone or myself, I know in certain areas where if a new block attempts to pop up, this is how you know that there's protection in there. When some new neophyte attempts to start his own block, within a week, they do a sting operation, some guy comes to buy, and all of a sudden you see he's arrested. So, I don't know. It seems like entrapment could happen when they need it to happen. You're telling me that what I know for a fact to be true is not true?
Nah, Kamak is not a police officer. He just come here to he troll it. Because remember when they had the police shootout for the car, when they went to sell the car and the
yes. Yes. Yes, right in Barataria, where the police position themselves as being buyers for a car, and they attempted to entrap, and they killed one. Not so? They killed one of the bandits and caught the other one, or something like that. So those police, that entire operation was illegal. They're all supposed to be in prison right now. I don't know. Kamak, you'd have to prosecute that on them. Police probably too overpaid. They're living too comfortably. They need to experience some struggle. RL, I disagree. I disagree that they need to experience some struggle or need to be paid less. I disagree with that. To me, I think the police have an argument for a serious, significant rise in pay. Because, to me, the same reasoning that they give for giving judges exorbitant sums of money, that judges are in an integral part in society and you want to ensure that they're so comfortable that they are not easily swayed by corruption, that's the same argument that police could give for increasing their pay. To me, like, if I were the dictator and I could just snap my finger and get it done, I think we need much higher qualifications and much stricter vetting of police and give them something like double or even triple the salary. Much higher salary, much higher qualifications, much more strict vetting. I am okay with that.
I agree with that. I think it's too easy to become a police officer, and a lot of these people, I don't think they're really qualified to do some of these things. When you really think about it, what are you really doing, boy? All they do is just take pictures with the gun and post it on social media. They really are no care. Some of them, notice I'm saying some of them, like, I know it's have good police officers, have really nice police officers who's really try and start to say, but those are the ones that they end up reaching where they have to reach, unfortunately, because as soon as they try to make a dent, they get moved. As soon as you try to interfere with that block on Scarborough, they're moving your tail to Roxborough, or they're moving you to Trinidad or something. As soon as they start to want to shake up the mix. So that is what is really be going on.
Why are you encouraging this rum shop talk, Nathan?
Nobody not saying that the job is not stressful enough. Nobody's saying that. What we're saying is, it is because it is stressful and because it is so, what is that? I think it's a very high, I don't know what to call that, right? We need more qualifications for that, I think. I think you should probably have some sort of certificate in crime solving, or some kind of entrapment 101 or something like that.
Kermack says you see why the image of the police is damaged. Sylvan says the jail is filled. Kermack, I don't think bad talking the police is why the police image is damaged. I think the damage comes before the bad talk. The idea that the only reason so many people speak negatively of the police is just narratives they've heard and not things that they have personally experienced is offensive. It's insulting to people, because there are many people out here who have personally experienced many of these things, and then to tell them that no, the police are perfect, you are spitting in their face after they have already been offended and hurt and sometimes criminally damaged by police officers, and then to tell them that no, there aren't bad police out there, they're all perfect, and you're just getting a bad narrative. You're lying and gaslighting the people. That's not why the image is bad. The image is bad because the police are like the modern feminist woman. They refuse to take accountability. They are never wrong. Why would I take my years of study to run down gunmen or lost night's sleep as a constable? And that's what I'm saying. I think my opinion of policing is you need higher qualifications, stricter vetting, but a far higher salary. Let it be a job that people could aim for, not settle for. Because many police officers, they settle for the job. You know, I get 5 passes in the CXC. I can't get my dream job that I was waiting for. All right, I'll be a police, and I never minded being a police anyway. But let it be a dream job, in fact. Something that people train their children and aim them for from the age of 5 when they enter primary school. Where you going to be a police, and that $30,000 salary is up there. To me, that has a better argument to me. That has a better argument. I don't have a problem with police getting way more money, but having yeah, Krim.
entrapment.
Mm-hmm.
Entrapment is when the law enforcement people induces a person to commit a crime. So, for instance, the sale of cocaine. I have coke. I go and present it to a dealer to buy coke. I put it to him. Rather than I hear a deal going on and I am going on the scene I'm supposed to buy the coke. So, like, for instance, you see the scene where I was talking about the car, it was already on marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
They put it on marketplace. So the police and them pose to be buyers. They already committed the crime. We didn't induce it. Like, we have this, if you understand, we didn't say we selling this here. Come and buy it.
But isn't a block doing the same thing?
Say that again, and answer me.
As you say, well, the case with the car is they were the ones who decided to sell it. They were the ones to commit the crime. The police officers just were there, as it were, while the crime was being committed. Isn't that similar to a block? That
No,
if you,
no.
but as far as I recall,
the car there for sale to catch them.
but as far as I recall, the car wasn't stolen. So the sale of the car itself wasn't a crime. So it's not like they committed a crime there.
The car was stolen. The car was stolen. The car was stolen.
Oh.
It was, a sting operation. The car was stolen.
I thought if the framing the article gave, it seemed like it was one of those selling a car when you're attempting to rob the buyer business. I didn't know it was a stolen car they were trying to sell on the marketplace.
It was a stolen car, and they was and that the person was going to buy it, and that is where they was. And that is to this pop the car, and the persons go this rob them also.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is the car was the owner recognized the car by whatever identification.
Oh.
You understand? And they went to get the car, and that's how it escalated then.
So if a police officer walks by a block and he asks them, what you have there? And they tell him I have something for 50. And he say, let me see it. And they show him it. He cannot arrest them.
Yes, you can arrest them. That's not entrapment. The person them already have that for sale. But if I go with a block of cocaine.
No. Well, Cormac, that's what I was talking about. That's what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about.
No. Ronnie was speaking about we don't put the temptation. We're gonna induce them to do something wrong. That is entrapment.
What? I never said that.
Well, that's not what I was talking about. If that's what you're talking about. I could understand that. I know that then the police are the criminals in that case. But what I was saying was, like, for the example of the Tobago block in downtown Scarborough, that's something to me that should be an easy solve, because I always say this with drug blocks, and that's how I know for sure that these guys have protection. Drug blocks don't sell to only people they know. Random men walk up to a drug block and like, oh, big man, what you had, eh? They are at a risky position. So if you have a drug block running in downtown Scarborough, that's under the auspices of somebody. Somebody's allowing that. I don't see it as somehow they have such a skilled technique that they only have the 30 grams on them at any given time, and they never offer sale to anybody. So they have a lawyer prepping them. So I don't believe that. That seems a stretch to me. Nathan is Marlon. Who Marlon? Which Marlon?
From beyond the tape.
I would experience it as how entrapment is. There's a difference in entrapment and a sting operation. A
right.
Sting operation is when the person them already then committed the crime, and we just intercept it.
Yeah.
Rather than putting it to them.
And
entrapment and a sting operation.
Thank you for that. Much appreciated. What I am thinking about isn't entrapment. I'm thinking about a sting operation, and I'm wondering, how do these things last? How does a block in downtown Scarborough stay there for a lengthy period of time? How is there a block in every city marketplace in the country, in built up metropolitan areas? Everyone knows who is there selling what. Like, and to then say that it's just bad parenting, which partly it is, or it's just societal breakdown, which partly it is, it's a bit dishonest. It's also that the parental breakdown and societal breakdown is affecting the policing, and there's a lack of a certain level of policing also. And what I was saying is, I believe, yeah, come on.
I want to add what you're saying to the societal breakdown. Because if you already watch it, has certain communities that crime don't strive.
Yes.
So that is something that we got to look at. There are certain communities within Trinidad and Tobago.
100% true.
The same Trinidad and Tobago that everybody talking down. Communities crime cannot strive there. Like for instance, the Makola area, Westmoreland. Why is crime not striving there?
But Cremak enter a big international.
People go there and they start up. Once people go there and they start up doing any wrong thing, the community themselves will push them out. They themselves will say, "Nah, we're not tolerating that, no."
But a big international trafficker was held in Westmoreland. A big.
We're not talking one that I want for the person was held. You know that person was held. Maybe a neighbor informed, you don't know. I don't know. That's something tolerated then. And they're not saying that's going to happen.
I agree with your point. I agree with your point. There are some communities that do not tolerate crime.
Man, the next thing they can already come on and speak, because when I'm having a conversation, I like progressive conversation. Rum shop too. But you talk about ratio.
Yes.
Most crimes is happening in that community, at-risk community, and repetitive, redundant.
Correct.
Because the people, they're cultured, they accept it.
Correct.
Encourage it.
I regularly say that. I regularly point that out.
When man was speaking about removing the persons in certain areas in downtown, people were saying, I'm telling them where to go and continue crime. If you take that person out of crime, if already watch when people go out of the area to commit crimes and they just get catch and they just get gunned down because somebody will see something and they don't tolerate it, and they will alert the officials, the authorities, and that is where they just get catch. But you can't go in the hometown and catch them because it's all the two wicked crew coming out and defend them.
You know, Krima, the point you're making,
that is where you're watching the culture.
The point you're making here, many people will disagree with, in that many people like to say that somehow those communities are only somehow victims, that it's somebody said it, who the community is learning from, and that Westmoreans have a different kind of crime. And I think what you're saying is 100% accurate. There is a reality that certain communities encourage criminality. There are certain communities, like to get into a part of the talk that we talk about sometimes, even on the racial end, in certain black communities, they glorify criminals in their communities, while in certain communities the criminals are not held in high regard. It's only the doctors and lawyers, and be a gangster in a certain community and still be held in high regard. Somebody could be a gangster and then they have a girlfriend and go home by the girlfriend's parents, and the girlfriend's parents accept them because that's accepted in that community. A gangster is just another job. While in certain other communities, if you're a gangster, you know you're not going with anybody's daughter in that community. You can't get a girlfriend where you're approved of by her family. And that's culture. Crime in the West may be organized. It may be organized, but I don't think it's even the same. There is a difference in the level of crime. You could find it unfair, but there's a reality that some communities and cultures engender a higher level of crime, a higher level of violent crime, if you will. Consider they have opportunity for higher levels of crime that more profitable and acceptable. I agree, but it's not only that. It's in ratios, as Krimak was saying. look at the community differences. Look at some of those communities and see how many people in those communities come from more stable families. And then see how many people in some of the hotspot communities come from single mother homes. And understand that it's not just a matter that the police and the media only like to pay attention to the poor black boy and they don't pay attention when the rich people doing the crime. No. There are certain communities that do crime at a higher rate due to their cultural influences, etc., etc. But they do crime at a higher rate. And I don't like the excusing of it. Like I don't like, and it's nearly like how some police do sometimes. Whenever the finger is pointed at the police, it's always some other fault. Or whenever the finger is pointed at these communities, it's not really the community fault, you know. Is the 1% that's bringing the guns, you know. Is the white man that teaching that kind of negative thing, you know. Is the radio station that decide to play the music and influence the ghetto youth. I don't like that. It's always somebody else's fault. But then you go into some of these communities, and when these fellas go out into the Chinese grocery and rob the Chinese grocery and come back with rum and cigarettes and the stolen money, they host a party, and the people from in the community know that it's stolen goods, and they go to the stolen goods party and drink the stolen Hennessy and smoke the stolen cigarettes.
Yes, I agree.
They're trying to paint a perfect picture of what's going on. So that is being encouraged. You know what they're harboring? These person them. They're harboring them. They're encouraging them. They're glorifying the criminality behavior.
Correct.
Delinquent behavior.
Okay, I would also like to point out in these areas, while I agree 100% with what you're saying, Nathan, I would also like to point out in these areas, these are the areas that you would find police on the rosters a lot of the time. So when you call in a police, not all the community just be like that. It's a very, very small percent of the community might have a problem, and they will call the police and say, you know, I see this man, and I see him here and he's doing this, and then the police never do nothing. Or the worst thing, the police is go and tell the people and them who went and say what. And it happened.
You're right, you know, Ronnie. You're right, but it's even more complicated than that. To touch what Positive is saying there, yes, I always note that nearly every time they show you a gangster get in something, his employment is as a laborer, and maybe that might be a good idea. Positive radiation, that might be a good idea. Tax exemption for employing them in construction. And what you're saying there, Ronnie, here's part of the problem with what you're saying there. If you put honest police in some of those communities where there's a culture of crime, you put the honest police there, the honest police attempt to clean it up. Then as the honest police attempt to clean it up, they get the earlier too wicked. They recognize that, wait, there are many people within this community who benefit from the criminality and don't want it to change. These men have multiple child mothers who are in love with them and will cuss everybody for them. And you go in there and you attempt to get it to change, and okay, the community is making it harder for me. I'm trying to get information from the community, and the community doesn't want to help me. This person is ingrained in the community, and then even if I get a sneak peek, I get a slight shift. Okay, I arrest him for something. Case to call, giving the community trouble. And then, because I try to focus on him, he starts to squeeze his underhanded screws on me as a police officer. So now, as a police officer, does it make more sense for me to fight the community, fight the courts, fight some of my compatriots? Yes, I do. To attempt to get this community sorted, or is it better for me, you know what? Whatever, yes, let it happen how it happened, and I'll take a little cut. And that's some of the problems in the system.
That's what you're saying, right? You're talking about the police. The criminal justice system makes up of the police, the courts, and the prisons. So whereas the police do catch you whoever, the court system would not be his wrist, a little tap. Say he had up in jail, say he had up in the positive reinforcement coming in. When did he turn back? Where it happening? The court system failing us. Because it's taking years to just get out somebody. So according to Caesar Vicarius, it's always said that Caesar Vicarius say for the justice system to work, it needs to be severe, swift, and certain. So you get the certainty when they get arrested. But the severity not there. And that's not the swiftness not there. Then it failed. Because all three have to be there, all three components have to be there for it to be impactful. They go in prison now. In prison is a big block. They have their cell phone, they're conducting their business inside of there. They're getting whatever drugs. So then where the reinforcement? Where's the restorative justice happening? Where the, you know, and the guys say be being punitive now. So then people just talk and that is getting me so angry. Like they just think it's police. Everything is police. But police is the beginning. We do our job, they back out in the streets. Doing what they do. Let them come and give them bail for murder. Let this man know who now get murdered there. He was out on bail for murder.
Yes.
He catch with firearms and he back out for bail. But think about it. Just think about the madness that's going on.
But Kramak,
Police can do.
I agree, and I regularly make those points. To be fair to myself, I regularly make those points. I just point out that the police are indeed a part of it also. I do agree with that. But with the bail issue, the part that confuses me with this, what the court said, what the Privy Council said on the bail for murder issue, is not that murderers are supposed to be given bail, but they have a right to ask the courts for it. And the courts are supposed to determine whether they get it. To me, that's not a blanket approval. If this guy is known to be involved, the evidence is enough, then you don't give him bail. That's not, I don't think that's something that needs to be solved from the parliament. Because just now, the problem that the Privy Council is stating there, the problem that would be created there is if someone is arrested and the evidence may seem a little, might not be at that level. If the parliament says that they cannot be given bail, that person then has to stay in jail even though they may be innocent until their case is called. The purpose of bail is to prevent things like that from happening. And whether they were accused of murder or not, the accusation should be irrelevant in terms of their level of justice that they should be able to receive. But nonetheless, as someone who is obviously, seems to have obviously be involved in something because he's dead, murdered now, how does a magistrate give him bail? How do they determine that? Good night, Fearless.
Because they on the roster too. Everybody on the roster.
And then in that case, and I said this before, Kramak, in that case, the licks isn't only for the police, but it should extend also to the judicial system. Yeah, Ronnie.
So then because you're saying, right, we have this criminal sympathizing community in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Then the judges, it's fair for the judges to say, you know what, why should I put away these people? It's clear that the communities want them out. So let me take the little something and I will set them free. It's the same difference as when police do these things, because when in this case, just now it's from okay, great, Mark, you can distance yourself. But in cases where police go and tell criminals, look, this person come and make a report or try to make a report on you, the people just go and kill them. So that putting somebody their life is not just as simple to say, well, here what's going on, brother. I will take a report, but I can't say nothing will come of it. You go in and report on the man and make the man lose his life. You understand? So it's not as simple to say, well, the community want them, so I'm not going and fight over that and I can take the money from them or whatever. It's nothing like that. People losing their lives with these things. So where we draw the line? I'm confused. We can't just say, I can't do anything for I
really?
Can't become.
You know anybody who lose a life like that?
Yes, I do.
What is the name? Did you go forward and tell the police that?
For me to lose my life too?
You see that the rum shop dog, that rum shop dog. Yeah, that rum shop dog. That was going to affect that. But that rum shop dog, what did you do with the information? What did you do with the information? What did you do with the information?
But Kramak.
Message me on
We're talking now. Are you not speaking now?
Are you not telling me something? I'm not going to tell you nothing.
I'm not speaking now about it.
Cormac, but Cormac,
I lost my life.
you must understand that if somebody,
He went and tell the police officers how people hiding gun in his yard, and now he is dead. Not even now. The man died, like let me say, he went Wednesday. By the Saturday, he was dead.
and this was the point I was making earlier, you cannot tell people who have experienced these things that they're lying. You know, police would never do something like that. When people in Trinidad have experienced these things personally, and then you're going to tell somebody, really, like, be honest here, Cormac. You're going to tell somebody who has experienced someone reporting to the police, and that someone being murdered. You're telling the person who witnessed that entire thing that they should take that information and carry it to the police too? You cannot be reasonably expecting someone to do something like that. That's not a reasonable expectation. There's 555 on Crime Stoppers for that, yes, and that's why those things are so important in a country. But sometimes you wonder about how effective 555 and Crime Stoppers are. Fellas, what's going on, bro?
I cool. Now joining the topic here. And I siding with that young lady there. I'll side with you.
Yeah, and Cormac, that I agree too. Like, I don't think that's rum shop talk. And you see just how you say, and many police say that, you know.
Nathan.
Yeah.
Nathan.
Yeah.
Be realistic here, right? Mm-hmm. What's your ratio? Every entity in the world, we're talking seriously, I don't want to be realistic. Mm-hmm. Every entity has some form of corruption or disappointment and wrongdoings. Mm-hmm. Every entity.
Agreed.
What's the ratio of that happening? I can't. All the murders, this never finished. All the murders happening for the year. Tell me when one was pointed out that they came and gave information to police and they was killed. Tell me tell me one that was hinted like that.
Well, I could tell you one that was alleged, well, more than one. The couple murders that were going on in the St. Augustine region, one of the guys, when he ended up in prison, released a voice note alleging that there were officers in the region, and he called their names, that were giving the go-ahead and opening the door proverbially to allow the murders to happen. And some of them indeed were suspicious because they happened during peak time, traffic time in Curep, and somehow the murderers could have gotten in and out. That was an allegation from this year. All right, fellas, I had to mute you there, bro, because you're getting some feedback there. But I don't know if you remember the multiple murders that were happening along Freeman Road or somewhere that train line is there in St. Augustine. And one of the guys whose family was being wiped out, he was allegedly a dealer known in the area, and he was warring with who he was warring with allegedly. And then he was eventually arrested. When he was arrested from behind jail prison walls, he released a voice note to the public, which is already a problem, as you would admit. But in the voice note, he alleged, and he called the names of senior officers at St. Joseph Police Station that were on another side allowing these things to happen, giving the go-ahead to the criminals to allow for the shootings to happen when they are to happen, etc., etc., etc. That was this year. That was the allegation. So there were allegations of that for this year already.
So let me get this straight, right, Nathan?
Mm-hmm.
Let me get this straight, right? You're saying a criminal element alleged stating that police officers was allowing our next side, his enemies,
yes,
to come and kill out his men, his family.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. That's your source. That's your that's your source.
But Cormac, wait, Cormac, wait. are you saying that if that is true, that's not a problem? Or are you saying that's something hard to believe? And you see, this is the problem. This is the problem why we can't get nice things in the police service. This is why the view is as it is of the police service. Because when an honest woman like Ronnie comes to say something about a neighbor, that can't happen. You say, well then, show me during this year, all the murders, show me one of them where the police involved. We show you where the allegations are. That can't happen. After a while, you get to the point to understand that it's not about the facts around it. It's that the police will never accept that they have something to play in it. That's what it becomes. Because you asked.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that somebody, why you didn't say it before? Why you choose when you get arrested now to stay that while in jail? Did you don't find that fishy? You don't find that, what's a coincidence?
Because he's a criminal.
That he ended up in jail and he decided to speak then.
He was releasing voice notes from before he was in jail. He was
outside. All the time you're outside, no voice notes. But then end up in jail, voice notes.
So you're saying, Kremak, you're saying what you're alleging here is the criminal. Here's the research.
I can't speak about it because I'm speaking about things that I don't know. I don't have no information about that.
Here's the.
You tell the wrong way to speak from a side of the show, from a standpoint that the show that happened. You're speaking from an unknown place.
I didn't say I'm sure it happened.
I am not sure.
I never said I'm sure.
But you're arguing now with the show.
No.
I believe this. You're speaking from a place that gets facts.
Any of the viewers here, I have said alleged.
It's so easy. Why it's so easy in Trinidad and Tobago for persons to make allegations against police officers about against the organization that they protect them as soon. Why it's so easy for people to make allegations like that and it's just so? You understand? This one, the man who's the head of PCA talk about the police service is his biggest gangsters. And no one take him to task for that. Imagine you're not head of a department, so that show that bias is. That show biasness.
Kremak, you see, this is why you said why the police has a bad image. What you're saying here is why the police have a bad image. Look at the comments in the comment section. Look at the general public. Listen to what the general public is saying. That's why you all have a bad image. You don't listen. The police are like that stubborn old Creole father, the stubborn old Creole Caribbean father, who all his children hate him and run away from him when they get older. And he still cannot see. Wait. This is the problem. You're not listening. Wait, you're not listening. People are telling you over and over and over. And instead of taking the opportunity to understand where they're coming from, you're insisting that they must be making it up. When somebody tells you of their personal experience, you say that can't be true. When someone tells you of an experience that was in the newspapers, in the news, and the facts around it seems to lean towards it, because the man had something like 6 of his relatives murdered within a short period of time in the same geographical area by the same group of people, murdering them during broad daylight. That seems to tell me like somebody in positions of authority was okay with some of this going on. It's not that I'm taking the word of a criminal, it's that the facts of the situation lend towards his story being true. And then for the police to come and say, no, that can't be true. Why? Because we are police and police don't do anything bad. When people know, they have experience, they saw the bribe, they saw the police doing the criminal action. And you spoke about ratios. Yes, it might, even if the ratio is a small ratio, understand this: when you as a police interact with somebody, that might be the person's one interaction with an officer for the year. If that one interaction is negative, okay, you may have 364 positive interactions and one negative one, but that one negative one is the person's only interaction with the police. It's going to give them a permanent bad image. And then understand the power imbalance that the police are coming with. This isn't a negative interaction with the KFC server. This isn't you going to KFC and they give you a smaller leg than you wanted. This could be people's life ruined. This could be people's lives lost. And then when people are in that kind of position and they complain and the police say, well, we can't do anything wrong. That's why you get a bad image. Listen to the people.
Nathan, I hope you don't go and twist my words like you normally do. Over a big thing and say that
No, I'm not playing any snippets. Krima. No fair, no snippets.
Nathan, what other entity is lock up the own like the police? Have a whole wing in the prison dedicated for police, armed for police. A whole wing is police officers. What other entity does do that? Whereas everybody pointing the fingers at the police just lock up their own when they found in wrongdoing. We don't hide for their own. We just lock them up. Name another entity that's do that.
Well, no other entity has the lock-up powers.
It's the only entity that can lock up anybody. A teacher can't go and lock up a next teacher.
Nathan, they see a smart solution because they can come on. That's how you talk about the sting operation. They could do that. They could do those things.
What teacher? Go lock up a next teacher? I think that's called like probably, the person will turn into a hostage or something. But even then, police excuse police when they do wrong things along too. When their wives come when their wives come about the beatings and the police officers don't arrest them, that is not arrested. The only time police does really arrest other police is when they don't have a choice. When they caught doing some kind of
you could call that rum shop talk, but again, this is something that I could talk about with first-hand knowledge that I know for a fact.
No. That's not true.
Abusive police that defend each other, that's not true. It appears that the TTPS is the only It appears that the TTPS is the only institution that does discover wrongdoing. And when I'm saying this, I hope that it is understood. And you see, I think this is something that I hope the police, especially at the senior levels, they need to understand. You are in a job, you are in a position that is going to always have heightened levels of criticism. It is, because that's the nature of your job. You can't be angry that your job has a lot of criticism, because that's just the nature of that job. You can't try to run from the criticism. You can't try to obfuscate the criticism or hide from it. You have to face it and see if there's merit in it. And the one about the abusive police, I am telling you, that's a fact. That's a fact. I know of a young lady in a position with her husband as a police, and when she reported it, what the officers told her is she should have reported it when he was in the academy, so they would have kicked him out back then. But now that he's a police, they can't do anything about it. That's what she was told from officers in the station. You could say that's rum shop talk if you want, but you'd be denying someone's own experience.
Ethan.
Yeah.
No. On both sides, it have I was listening to the topic here, where the gentleman is saying he seems to be a police officer, so some kind of thing like that. I'm not sure about the name. I do appreciate the fact that you see that it's rum shop talk, like one, because the police are supposed to be fair across the board. If they are not supposed to get locked up. If it have a wing across in the prison for them, for the police and them, yeah, because they're doing wrong as well. You understand? The other side where the lady was saying, well, oh gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
That's alright, that's no problem.
But what's saying that is both sides, the bantering going good, I like it, I enjoy it, but my boy, he will get more wrong than anything else. He sound like he's a police too, It's someone like he's a police because he take him for the police. I'm feeling sorry for him, but he had to take each job, man. The police doing wrong and they had to get locked up.
And you see, for me, like
what the judiciary,
and
judiciary,
yeah,
they have a major role to play in what is taking place out here right now.
Fact.
You have persons committing offenses, and you see them back out, and some of them actually saying, "Yeah, we're gonna now me and I doing certain things, and I know I come back out just to get bail and come back out."
Yeah.
You understand?
And I remember I spoke about that previously when I was talking on more of the defensive side of the police. And I, sorry, one of the reasons why I don't think I could ever be a police, because I in Trinidad, I think to some extent it's kind of spinning top in mud. One of the things I always belabor, if you live in one of those communities, and this was the point I was making to Ronnie, about the culture of those communities and why it could seem to the police like it doesn't make sense, best I just go ahead and take the bribe. Every bad boy in those communities has a pending court case. I always make this point. Every bad boy has a court matter in a pending court matter. What that tells you is that at some point in time, at least one police did their job, arrested and charged this bad man. So if every bad man in Trinidad and Tobago that is out on the street has a pending court matter, I remember I did a video on this, then the limiting factor for crime is not the police. As much as I do enjoy criticizing the police where I think they deserve criticism, the real limiting factor, even if we magically turn all 8,000 how much ever police to perfectly honest beings, we need to understand that nearly all criminals out there have pending court cases anyway. So it's not that the police are not arresting and charging these men. You talk to a police, they could probably outline for you the entire network of the criminal operation in many areas because they know the men. When you hear the men murdered, you hear the police say they were known to the police. I don't doubt the murder accused man that was out on bail that was murdered in Diego Martin there. You speak to police in the Western Division, they could probably tell you who killed him, why they killed him, and the whole story behind it because they know. But the court does not hold the people in. And then even if the court does their job and gets the person behind bars, the people who are supposed to be holding them locked up behind bars are allowing them to communicate outside, which is killing the whole purpose of the thing. So I understand and agree it's not a police only issue. But it just rubs me the wrong way when people point out the fact that there is a gap in a certain area in the policing there, and police make it seem like they gaslight us. Like, no, that's not true. I disagree. It is true. There is an obvious gap, and there's an obvious gap in the court system too. Now, the problem with the court system, the difference with the judiciary versus the police, I think it's harder to see where the gap is in the police. Kramak, you were going to say something.
But I was going to say, right, yes, it has shortcoming on the police behalf. But how can you fix it if nobody come forward, Nathan?
But it's a difficult
XYZ. You know this. Can I say thing? She's saying that she know about this, she know about that. How can the police fix it if they do not come out and give the information? Information, we need to get the information. Police can just act.
I agree.
On guess they have to have evidence. We have to get evidence.
And that's the conundrum. That's the conundrum. Because corrupt police make people not want to give evidence.
But that I agree with is a conundrum. The conundrum is not to the police alone. It's society own. So this is where this is hurt me when people keep saying crime is police. Crime is everybody business. We need the public to work to solve crime. The conundrum is that the public thinking the police is the enemy. It can never be. We all in this together. If the information don't come from the police can't do anything to fix the problem. So then what are we really doing? You're pointing fingers at the police, but the police have no information. So then what are we to do? What are we to do, Nathan? Tell me, how are we going to go forward? Tell me.
To me, here's what the police need to do. The police need to show that any even whisper of a direction of corruption in the police service is hunted down to no end. That's what they need to show. They need to show that when you go to a station and you make the report, you don't hear that the block was tipped off. That's what the police need to do. They need to do that for years upon years upon years. Because years upon years of the opposite actions is what it took to erode the trust. It's going to be difficult for people to want to give information when they have heard like what Ronnie spoke about there. How is somebody like Ronnie going to feel comfortable to give information when she has personal knowledge of somebody who was murdered after giving that information? How would they feel comfortable? And you cannot come as a police and rag them up and buff them up about not giving information when they have witnessed someone die because of giving information to you.
Nathan, again, every because they have 800 tips, they have 555, which is anonymous. They have other ways to get the information to the police without going in person, Nathan. Oh, go on, man, don't do me that now. We're talking real, let us be real. So that's what it's doing. Or they try to say they have other ways to get the information out there.
Kramak, if I call 555 and tell them there's a drug block operating in my neighborhood, what would happen?
You want me to 555 and we'll give the information.
We'll call the station district. 555 will call the station district and give the information, and they would usually send police officers on that report. Right? The persons is supposed to who gave the information is supposed to remain anonymous. Right? And some feedback whatsoever is supposed to be given.
Because
I really wanted to say this.
Right, finish.
In my experience, right, almost every institution in Trinidad and Tobago is tainted by corruption of some sort. Almost every institution. I don't want to say every, I did. Right? And the police service is held at a higher standard because we are supposed to be, police is supposed to be I was going to call it. Supposed to be held at a higher standard because we in charge of locking up people. You understand? Enforcing the law, I should say. Enforcing the law. And you going out there and you have police officers corrupted. People didn't come in and give you no information. They would not feel comfortable to come and give you information because they don't trust you. And just as what the young lady said, she said, hey, she had experience with that. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people is having the same issue. So giving the information is nothing, but how you go feel after your whole family life being threatened? You understand? Sometimes you as a police officer alone. So
yep.
As much as I want to stand up 100 for the police service, I can't. I definitely can't because I would have had experience as well.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yep. And it's a difficult. Here's what I think. I don't think that people don't want to give information. I think many people who have high levels of crime in their community, if they don't directly benefit from the crime, they don't want it there. They would like to give the information and get rid of it. Nearly everyone who does not give the information, it's more a concern about their safety. It's not that they want the crime there. So, as the police, if you're concerned, if the problem is getting the information, what you need to figure out is how to get people to believe that if they give the information, they would be safe. That's the most important thing you have to get through to people. That's the most important part. And so a reason. Another example that I think could be, you could be losing some of the trust on. I find, and this is a problem I've said before, some of the younger generation of police, the image and lifestyle they portray seems to unify with the Zessa lifestyle. Like, I find many young police officers seem like they have a dream of being Zessas. It's like a certain crime fighter in Trinidad and Tobago. He wasn't officially trained in crime fighting, but a certain crime fighter in Trinidad and Tobago. I remember an interview he did, and he said his dreams, who he looks at in terms of wanting to model himself after, are the cartel bosses and the mafiosos. You know, he likes them with the cuff links and, you know, the flair. That's what he like. When you see things like that, that suggests to you that you're crime fighting. Hey, Adriel, you could call names. I am not calling any names. I didn't call any. I find you see some of that in some of the younger police too. Like some of them, they want to be Zessas. You look at the block party in the neighborhood where the known man in the neighborhood, the community leader, throws a block party every year around Christmas, and you're watching the block party, and all the young police from the area with the big link in the party too. I am going to give information on that man.
I'll take this time out from the 85 persons. You don't have to go in the station only to give information. I just want to put that out there. You have other means, you have other ways to get to that. If it's about against police, you don't go in the station and give that information. You go straight to PSP. If it's about information about blocks, whatever, we have information to say to find guns, drugs, whatever. They could go and they have numbers they could call. 555, 800 tips, and have a next number. I can't remember it offhand. But it have other ways and means they could get information. If you have somebody, everybody have a police in their family. If you can trust your family member, pass it on to him. He will get on to the right people. You don't have to go in a station only, Nathan. If you don't trust police at that point. The thing about it, have other ways. The police service realize people not trustworthy, they don't want to trust the police. Other way, put things in place to get the information to the police. Safely, keeping your...
You see what you're talking about here? To me,
your identity secret.
To me, this is the tone that police are supposed to be talking to the country with. Talk with an understanding tone. Talk like you know what is going on here. You know why people don't want to give information. So speak like you understand it. So you're talking to people and you're talking to them about going to family member police. Talking to them about which numbers are the best numbers to use. Talking to them about creating barriers between them and giving information. That's the tone that police are supposed to be taking. If the problem with the police is getting the information, and the problem with the information is that people don't trust you, that's where you need to target. You don't need to go out there and keep saying that serious crimes are down. I make a promise to reduce murders. I'm not going to tell you why we didn't reduce them, but I broke my promise. But we are doing our best. We are doing that. Nobody cares to hear that. That doesn't help. That's not the words they need to hear.
But all I do is pass the information. I just pass the information. I agree with you 100%. Even and be on the tape, that's something that I find is underutilized. You know, more information should be shared about police.
I
More
agree.
information that highlight the police in a better image.
Cormac, here's my problem with beyond the...
Much attention. We need more grounds. You know, because we just always go on old stations. And I'm going to say old station. I don't want to stick on old station. Like station that is I-95 and old stations. Have new stations with urban. Go on these stations and have more dialogue with the public. On these new stations, we have a wide
Yes.
audience, or a wide body of listeners. I think that is the way you're supposed to go forward.
Exactly. And explain the how-tos. Just like you were talking about that. There. Explain the how-tos. Because there may be some people that they don't even know, they didn't hold it in their mind that they could talk to their family member police. They didn't know which number is the best one to call, etc., etc. Go have those kinds of conversations. And often embarrassed and insulted. That does not increase the image. Like where are the humble police? Get a humble police officer who could engage with humility with the public, put them as your spokesperson, and try to repair that image. Like, I would always say this. I always remember this, and this experience always sticks with me. I remember one time when I was just married, heading down Mayaro somewhere that side, and I regularly say about this instance. And I went through a roadblock, and some of those Grandy municipal police ladies were there. That was the best roadblock I ever went through in my life. The way they explained what they were doing, they looked into my vehicle, they looked at my document, and I went away smiling and happy. Because they didn't have that abrasive attitude. They understood that they were imposing upon me here. This is not something that I want to do. I don't want to waste my time in traffic and have you searching in my vehicle looking for something illegal. I don't want that. And if you approach me understanding that, then we could have an amicable interaction. And that's the kind of way I think you need to approach the whole general public as the police. Like, instead of that abrasive attitude, go get some training from the nurses, the nice nurses, and get the nice nurse attitude. That's the attitude I think police need more of. The niceness attitude.
Never. No, Nathan. I can't agree with you there. Can't agree with you there, Nathan.
Why not?
The general public, most of the general public is law-abiding citizens, right? However, a lot of the persons that they encounter, they have that abrasive attitude that you speak of.
Mm-hmm.
And you may try to calm someone or speak to someone in a calm tone, a nice tone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And brother man, the kind of thing that you will encounter. Look, for instance, with the video that's circulating with the lady with the camouflage pants, right? She would have been getting lock up because of what the behavior. You understand? You speak about nurses. Well, then you change it to nice nurses. My wife is a nurse, and when I met her, nasty attitude. I telling you, and I was like, well, no, she will tell you that. Nasty attitude. I don't know what to do. I say, hey, we started to, deal and thing, and I say you can't be speaking to people like that, and that is one of the most calmest person that I come across now. In fact, I'm the more rugged one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I say, all right, boss, okay, but I'm telling you, the nurses, most of the nurses that I have come across, they are nasty attitude. Nasty.
Well, I've been lucky in my. Go ahead, Cormac. Go ahead.
I want to support what Pierre is saying. Remember, this is as though you might be watching this as their approach. You don't know what the intent of the other person.
Yeah.
Say the other approach from 100 or 200, but sometimes you gotta be alert. So you just want to do your job and get moving.
Mm-hmm.
So because you do that, so easy things can escalate. So you think about it. You might watch it as a job. But most times with police officers, it's life and death now.
Yep. I understand that.
Go ahead. So different. So why am I asking you watch things in one way? You know, watch from the officer perspective too.
I agree, and that's a point that I totally understand. And sometimes, let me tell you, I fully understand that sometimes. Like when you see sometimes the officer shootings and people talk nonsense about shoot them in their foot and whether the person was armed or not. If a person lunges at a police, it's life, and I understand. I'm not talking about the seriousness with which you approach it. I'm talking about the general aggression and abrasiveness. Like, there are some police who have that. There are some male police that you see they're serious, but they're not out of timing, as it were. They don't have that extra aggression. And just as you were saying, understanding it from the other perspective, what I would like is for the police to also understand it from the other perspective. This person, this could be the most stressful thing they may experience in their whole life. You as a police, yes, it's a life and death situation, but this is what you do on a daily basis, day in, day out. You're going to have 10 interactions like this per day. But this is their only one. They are scared. They don't know what to do. The world might be crumbling around them. And this is the time where you come and you insult and that's not good. So that's what I'm saying. You need to look at it exactly from multiple points of view. So for me, I always say I'm a tall, relatively big Creole guy. I understand who I represent in public. So if I walk somewhere and the police turn around and watch, you wait righty, hey. I understand, and I'm quick to listen and be very cooperative, because I understand that I could look like a threat. And I don't hold that against them. I understand. So I'm trying to interact like I can see the other person's point of view. Nathan, imagine me as a police with my voice. Yeah, boy, positive boy. Whew. You'll make a good CID. Yeah.
Bring an example, of course, here. As a youth growing up in Port of Spain, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the age of 16, I never had a police interaction without a firearm pointed at me. Never had a police interaction without a police firearm pointed at me. That was the modus operandi. That is exactly how it is operated. And this is a everyday interaction we're talking about. Every day. As long as it stop, them galleys pointed at you.
I've never had that. But
that's how it is operated.
But like in
why would I as a citizen have a good impression of dealing with the police? Why would I as a citizen have a good impression of dealing with the police if that is my experiences?
But
dealing with the police.
But
I'm
as
not saying that but that what you're saying is wrong, but is based on your how you carry about yourself.
No.
Listen.
Not at all.
Listen. Because you have persons, the way some people dress, the way how they carry about themselves in public, and they talk to people and things. The police sometimes is the same way. However, you as a police officer, you feel we're going to scrape down any body just like that. You have to be carrying about yourself in a particular way. Alright. You understand?
just to interject a little bit there. I believe you said it was Gonzales region you grew up in. If to look at it from both perspectives, that was the interaction you had with all the police. Now, what if for some of those police, they know that the interaction they had with some guys who looked like you from your region is that when they pull up on them, they shoot and run. When the police stop them, those guys pull out the thing, shoot them and run through the bushes. So on the police's point of view, they're looking at you as a threat also.
But again, the police not supposed to act like the criminals.
Yeah, but they're not shooting you. They're holding you.
Like the criminal.
they're holding you in a position that they think is safe. So, like for me, here's my opinion on something like that, not knowing everything surrounding the incidences. Because I understand in eastern Port of Spain that there are indeed many violent reactions with the police. So I could understand the police being a lot more apprehensive about how they interact. Now, here's a good idea. Speak softly, but carry a big stick. So okay, they stop you. They have the galils pointed, but they're speaking nicely. I mean, it's not like they're trying to baby talk you, but they aren't insulting you and cussing you up and roughing you up on the jump. They're speaking clearly, concisely, and without rudeness. To me, I could take that balance. Like, if I live in a hotspot community and the police stop and pull a weapon facing at me, but they're talking to me pleasantly, I could understand that. But if they pull a weapon and then they're insulting and ragging me up.
And the thing is, that is, I'm not saying they don't have police officers who does try to deal with it in a proper manner, respectful manner, But the norm is disrespect. Right? The norm is disrespect. I ain't trying.
I wish, right? I wish. I wish.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that I know it will never happen, but it should give every citizen has to be a police officer. That's for probably about 2 weeks or more. And watch everybody perspective will change on the way.
I walk in from my shop and I chew beard and there's a galley in my face. When I mean in my face, if I sneeze, I would have touched it.
Oh gosh.
What's that?
It's based on the probably again the area that you're in and the way you carry about yourself, because it happens from in your area. I should have changed the bread. No, why don't you move bread again? Anyway.
Like, for me, that's what I say. I could understand the police's point of view in that perspective. I understand why they do it. I've been searched. I never had the gun pointed at me. I've been searched before at times where I found like the search was totally unnecessary. But I could understand it.
Example.
What's that?
I can show an example.
Yeah.
Me doing exercise and all over the place. I will go into the areas and these people will you feel like you're a celebrity. The people will be so glad to see you, the cooperating. Nobody will say, the Ariel criminals out there, why don't want to capture me? Come to harass people going to work. They go in other areas and they do the same thing, they approach the same way. And it's all kind of resistance, all kind of insultive thing people telling them for what? And you doing your job.
Because the police interaction with John public in these areas is aggression first.
Well,
so, but can you agree to disagree? And is that issue that on both sides?
That's what I was going to get at. If you all notice, if you all notice, what you're saying here, what Kremak is saying feeds into what is saying, what is saying feeds into what Kremak is saying. So the police in this region, they interact more roughly with the people. I'm not saying which one is the chicken or the egg, which one came first, but the police interact more roughly, so that many people in this region have an attitude like the police are enemies. So from the time the police reach, the police walking in, and they then start to insult the police. Look at that big fat clown. Look at that stupid one. Like, I mean, we see the videos. The police just walking, patrolling, and they hurling insults already. And police are humans. They are humans that's going to have a certain kind of feel on them. So they aren't happy about walking through these neighborhoods. So as we spoke about from the jump, lower morale while walking through certain neighborhoods could cause police interactions in certain neighborhoods to not be ideal. And the not ideal interactions cause the neighborhood to treat them worse, which causes them to treat the neighborhood worse, which causes them to treat them worse. And
you had to see that later.
What's that?
You have to see that in
Of course, that has to come back in. Of course, that has to come back in, and it's a self-defeating cycle. Now, for me, on the police side, the police have to try to bite the bullet because you want to fix you want to try your best to fix the crime situation as you can. So you have to try to take the insults. You have to understand, okay, these people are upset what they are upset about. I will take these insults and still try to treat them better. On the people's side, though, on the person in the community side, though, they have to understand that cussing up the police doesn't benefit them. So I have a problem with many police interactions. Many times how the police stop some people, like the camouflage business with the lady down Mayaro. I think personally the police shouldn't have any business too. If you have the Galil pointed at you, that isn't the best time to show how much you hate police. That's just not a good idea. So both sides have to try and balance it because it's a self-defeating cycle. It's a negative feedback loop. And the communities with the positive feedback loop would get better and better. The communities with the negative feedback loop get worse and worse. So some communities, they have a good interaction with the police. Now they're able to call police personal number. They have a police that comes through the community, and the other community is the opposite like that. Criminal getting legit TTDF camouflage now. Well, of course, we know that. That's not now though. That's decades now.
We sorting that out because that camouflage thing, as you rightfully said, it's law.
It is.
The police is there to enforce the law, right? As much as you're wearing your camouflage and you think, well, yeah, I can wear my camouflage right in front of the police. I think most persons know already, hey, you're going on way, that camo thing and you're passing right in front of the station and you're really business. No, that needs to stop until it scrap that law off the books.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Scrap it off the books completely. Because I think we're one of the only country that still has, or still have that law. Or one of the only Caribbean country that still have that law. Until so, people know that they in business.
For me, and we spoke about this before. I think we understand the spirit of the law. People understand the point of the law. They don't want you impersonating a regiment officer. And then, well, to me, that should be the charge. If you are obviously attempting to impersonate an officer, you are charged. If you have a pedal pusher fitted camouflage, you are not impersonating any officer. If you have a pink camouflage hat, you are not impersonating any officer. Like, these things need to fix.
Change the law to speak about the regiment. You see, like, all the camouflage that being utilized by the protective services, that out of the question, that prohibited. But any other question, any other camouflage, white camouflage, pink camouflage, green camouflage, you know the fluorescent green colors.
Yeah.
Leave the people to wait. But anything that the regiment and the police using, any camouflage the police and the regiment using, that is off limits.
Exactly. And to me, in my opinion, I think if you do something like that, if you fix that legislation, and I understand, Ali, I disagree with the law is law talk, but I understand that in the case as it is the law. And this is why many times politicians upset me, because this is your job as a politician. This is really what you're supposed to be focused on. You're supposed to be able to go to parliament and get these things sorted so that you don't have police making negative interactions with the public when they don't have to, because I think that just increases negative interactions with the public that are wholly unnecessary. And then, in my opinion, what is going to happen is it's actually going to become much easier to deal with the people who have criminal intent when they're impersonating these regiment officers. It's going to be much easier because you don't have to go chasing down pink and white camouflage. You're chasing down the guys who are attempting to impersonate regiment officers. And as I said, even as it is now, I don't even understand what is the great danger about impersonating a regiment officer in the first place. Impersonating a police officer has more danger than a regiment. Like, what are you going to do with regiment impersonation? Sylvan, we discussed this at length and in our live months ago with the people have the power. I don't agree with that. That's the motto and slogan of democracies, but I don't think it's actually the reality where the people do have the power. I think if you do a survey across Trinidad and Tobago and ask the average Trini, do you think we should change the camouflage laws? You will get the vast majority of people saying yes. Get them to change it. We cannot. There's nothing the general public could do to force the people, the political class into changing that. Smokey Banton over on Instagram says, some officers be too much in their feelings while doing their job. Well, that's true, that's true. Ronnie says, not me hiding my green camo miniskirt. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Breaking the law.
Yeah, I do that.
They need some laws to boost arrest numbers then when things not looking good. Oh.
I like to see them ladies in a nice tight camo and thing, but at the same time, I'll get in trouble.
No, but camo have a nice look, eh? Camo have a nice look.
Under the impression that police can't take your camo, only regiment can take your camo. Is that the case still?
No.
I'll never the case. Army officer or a soldier or whatever you want to call him, he can't charge you. The police have to charge him. Well, if you take it from here, he will be charged for larceny. Take it in what he will have to do.
No, Sayachan, we can.
Because some police, these two people can charge you that. Custom and police.
A camo bikini is listen, positive radiation. You know Trinidad and Tobago. You put on a camo bikini, they will seize it.
Give me that, and instead of
Who's talking? I can't hear them.
they might leave you in your tower.
Funny enough, the only time the camo is accepted is during Army Fete. Sylvan asks, are you saying that the elected representatives don't represent? I am 100% saying that, Sylvan. I have never backed away from saying that. I have always said that. And the nature of our political system is just that. How are the MPs selected in a region? Who selects who goes up for the PNM in Laventille West? It's not the constituents of Laventille West select that person. So when that person gets into that position, they are not loyal to the constituents of Laventille West. They must be loyal to the PNM who put them in the position to get in as the MP. They aren't loyal to the constituents. The constituents didn't choose them. The constituents voted for PNM. PNM chose the MP. The MP has to be loyal to who chose them.
Another downfall pertaining to the police is you see the implementation of policies.
Mm-hmm.
They don't include police officers in the development of the policies. Like for instance, the churn act.
Yeah.
They just make laws, but the hands-on with the police, it was not there.
You know,
Another reason why so much amendments fail when they come to the police, because the police, like for instance, the dangerous job.
yeah.
When they talk about the plans, the 4 plans, they didn't take plenty things in consideration because they didn't consult plenty with the police to get their perspective or their understanding or the issues that might occur.
I agree with you.
With the new amendment.
I agree with you. And that's a habit of people in certain positions. So, as I said, I'm in construction on the contracting side. Very often you see people on the architectural design side don't consult with people on the build side, and sometimes that creates massive problems when the rubber meets the road. I agree, and I could see that. I could see that where if you don't consult with the people that actually have to go out there and be the physical arm of the law that interacts with the population, and you're passing laws, the laws might sound good in theory but not work well in practice, and I could see that happening. An interesting thing.
One law that irks me. One law that irks me.
What's that? Well, when you come back, I was looking at something very interesting recently, where an article very interesting recently where they were talking about bringing the lie detector test and the biometric tests and all of that for law enforcement people. And an opposition member was speaking about they're not in support of it. They find it too vague. They're asking who they spoke to about it, and interestingly enough, they said that, well, this is going to affect the lawyers and people inside the legal fraternity. Did you consult the law association? But it's going to affect the police, and there was no question of if the police were consulted. So I agree with that. I think there needs to be more consultation when you're thinking about the legal framework of things with the law enforcement side of things. I do agree with that totally. There's no room for discussion. The prisons will be super crowded. People smoking in public, it's hard to enforce. Too much double standard, because when the police have fed in the police mess, what does they be drinking? I don't know. To be used on suspected rogue officers. I find it hard to believe they didn't consult, but the rep may not have done their job. Maybe consultation was had and it wasn't ideal. That may be a possibility. You know, with this decriminalization of marijuana, you're seeing some of that complication. As I've said, I am in favor of decriminalizing it, because to me the idea of putting people in prison for burning a plant and inhaling it sounds ridiculous. And I don't think that's a good use of the country's resources. However, I also don't think that it's a good thing for a large proportion of your country to be hooked on a drug that makes them a lot more lazy. That's not a positive outcome. How you deal with that in the in-between, I think we're trying to figure that out right now. With the question of plants and all of that. Like for me, when I was looking at the decriminalization and how they were setting it up, even the plants, I don't fully understand how that makes sense. You are allowed 4 plants, but you're allowed 30 grams. If you harvest a plant, wouldn't you have more than 30 grams? So are you allowed 30 grams if it's on a plant? So then if I keep my plant in the soil, I could have more than the 30 grams? Can I have 4 adult plants at the same time? And then you must understand that the plants that are needed are the females, not the males. And you only know which is the female or male after they reach a certain level of maturity. So is it then that the person must wait for their 1 plant to reach a size, cut their 4 plants reach a size? If it's all 4 males, well, hard luck, we have to cut that down and go back with another 4. People aren't going to do that. Are you allowed only 4 seedlings too, or is it 4 adult plants alone? Like for me, these are questions that need to be answered. I remember when it was recently decriminalized, a man from somewhere in the east was arrested. And he had something like 12 seedlings or something like that. And the point he was making was that as he gets seeds, he just puts them in the ground. And as they grow up, he's waiting to see which one is the male or female. He kills the male, keeps the female. And he doesn't have more than 4 adult female plants. And if he wants to only use what he grows, he can't afford to only grow 4 at a time and wait to see if they're going to be male or female. So the very intention you had about breaking up the blocks and not having users going to the blocks to purchase, well, the idea of only 4 plants isn't going to work for preventing that anyway.
put for.
So it obviously needs a lot more consultation. And then there's variety in marijuana plants. There are some marijuana plants that could grow like a tree, basically. A couple feet well over a human's height. You could have marijuana trees that could grow pretty tall, and then there are some that stay pretty short. Is the number the same? Like, you wonder about the consultations. That's a good point you made there, Krima.
You could buy. It has things that you could buy, like the feminized seed or whatever, so you know for sure that that one is going to be a female plant or whatever.
Is the purchase, but is the purchase of the seed legal?
No, it's not, but I mean, we bypassing that.
So then again, the decriminalization negates all of that. Because you're talking about committing a crime when you're talking about purchasing feminized seeds. The legal way to do this is you grow your plant, you get your own seeds and you replant it. That's, if you're saying that the law is supposed to prevent that, that's what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to grow your plant, get your seeds, plant it back. You're not supposed to have feminized seeds that you could purchase. If that's the intention, the numbers wouldn't work for that. But it have more pressing laws to be addressed and amended. So, bro, there are so many pressing laws. The parliament is supposed to be running 24/7 the amount of pressing laws that need to be amended, some of them deleted. The whole law is very weird. I agree, the law is very weird. You could wonder, and this is something that to me you could only really do if you're theorizing, if it's a game and you could do this on a game and do the save game and restart. You could wonder if it would have made more sense just to plain decriminalize it. Don't put any limitations, anything. Plain decriminalize it. You could wonder if that would have made more sense. Like, I wonder if anybody would have smoked more, or if they're smoking about as much as they already want to anyway. Like, the four plants business, is that really helping the society?
But when you say legalize it, you mean like you could just be out and, now that I know that happens, but I mean, like how people could just be out smoking cigarettes, they could just be out smoking weed, that kind of.
Why not?
Like you're gonna because then you're out in public smoking, blowing smoke into children faces.
To me, anywhere you could smoke a cigarette, the argument would be the same thing. Then if you can't smoke that, then you can't smoke the cigarette. And like when they stop, I remember millennials who grew up a little before, you would remember times where in closed places you go in a cinema and people smoking inside, they're looking to kill you. That was a strange thing back then. And they stopped it. That makes sense. So I could see you stopping it in certain public areas, but wherever you could smoke a cigarette, why not? It's smoke.
It's okay. I not to think, but I just kind of wonder if we would just begin the slippery slope with it, you know, and then we want to legalize even harder things and just make everything legal.
Yeah, and what would be the problem with that?
Why not? I mean, look at Canada.
For me, here's my opinion. Again, opinion. And I'm not 100% sure about this. It's an opinion. But I feel like legalizing some of these drugs and treating them as they are addictions may actually be a better method of dealing with drug addiction. Treating, you see how we're attempting to treat crime as a public health issue, and it is not. I think we should treat drug addiction as a public health issue because it is. And like,
but that was the same thing that Canada said, you know, like we legalized it so people could come forward so that they could get help. but they're not coming forward to get no help, and they just kept legalizing worse and worse and worse drugs. I think the only drug they do have is fentanyl. I think that's the only drug they have.
The thing is, Ronnie, many of those people are dishonest. Many of those people are secret communists and Marxists, and they're trying to recreate society and all kind of secondary motives. So they did not have intention of helping these people in the first place. That's not what I'm saying. And just now, in order to help people that are drug addicted, you need to be able to force them to do things. So I don't think that the best way to tackle that is on the side of attempting to somehow ban all drugs, because I just don't think it works. It's similar to the guns. I just don't think it works. I think if you're trying to do that, you do it on the side of treating drug addicted people and trying to ensure that people don't become drug addicted. Like, there are all kind of poisonous plants you could plant in your yard and grow and eat and kill yourself if you want. But people don't do it because we have interest in self-preservation. And I think we could attempt to use the interests of self-preservation to tackle drugs instead of crime fighting to tackle drugs. You understand what I mean? To me, when I think about it logically, it just kind of doesn't make sense. And the nature of drugs is you have a captured audience, and because you have a captured audience, they would always come for the drug. So if you make it illegal and you become better and better at stopping it, all you're really doing is increasing the price. I was listening to a former drug agent from Britain speak about this, and he was saying that the better they became at drug busts, all they did was they made the people remaining in the drug industry richer. So if the police, if the drug enforcement agencies were not good at stopping it, then there were many players in the drug industry who didn't make a lot of money. The better they got at stopping it, there were fewer players in the drug industry who made more money. That was the only difference they made. They didn't stop the industry, they didn't stop the users. And he was making the point that as they got stricter with it, the price went up. And as the price went up, what the cartels were able to do actually increased. So he was talking about some of those cartels basically began to own some of the poorer African nations as go-between countries for transshipment. Because when your industry, due to the illegality of your industry, when it becomes a $50 billion yearly industry, then the amount of investment you can make per year increases. And why is it a $50 billion per year industry? Because it's illegal.
I understand that and I get that. But you see it like the politicians in Canada, they don't care. That's why they don't care. They never cared about the health of the people of the drug addict. But what politician would or does in Portugal they did similar, but they actually tackled the mental health and physical health side of it. So there are different ideologies in this. There are people who think that it's your right to use drugs, and that you should have the freedom to be a drug addict on the street and no one has the right to remove you. That's the mad people in charge of California, Portland, and certain places in Canada. That's a different ideology than the people who are saying we want to tackle drug addiction. We think drug addiction is a bad thing, but making it illegal does not help in tackling it. Those are different ideas. And I kind of share that idea that drugs are bad, but making it illegal doesn't really help. Anyway, it's after 12. And people don't watch me like, hey, how long you going to be here, boy? So, thank you guys for being here. This has been the Mindful Live. Ronnie, have anything to say in closing before we dive out? Oh gosh, I'm so sad that we didn't get to answer a comment about that. But next week we will. A comment about if it makes sense to put men in jail for maintenance. But
ooh,
it makes sense. Them and end it here, it makes sense because you're outside, you're working and you're not paying your maintenance. So sit down in jail and do pay your maintenance and let the state mind your child. I don't have a problem with that. Men, all your worthless. Enjoy your night. And I didn't get to see her, but I hope she's doing well.
She's doing well. She's doing well. She's sleeping. I'm not even going to touch that, Ronnie, because that topic nice. That's a juicy topic. Write it down, you know, you just forget. You know, you just forget already. I like that topic, though, Ronnie. That topic...
It's a comment and positive. They're siding with them men and them boys. Positive.
Let me don't touch it. Let me don't touch it. It's tempting. Anyway, people, this has been the Mindful Live. This has been the Mindful Live. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I'll see you again for the next Mindful Live tomorrow evening. Actually, tomorrow evening I will not be here. This is the last Mindful Live for the week. I'll be here again Monday. Tomorrow, Friday, no Mindful Live. You all heard it. No Mindful Live tomorrow. I'll see you guys next week, Monday, for the next Mindful Live starting around that 9 p.m. time. It doesn't make sense. Little Miss Mediator says positive, says you still will not get the money. You all don't stop tempting me. All you know I like to talk. All you know I like to talk. I'm out. Hold it down, people. Have a good weekend.